There is a bottle of melatonin in a lot of homes right now, and there is a good chance the dose on the label is about 10 times higher than anything that has actually been studied. That is worth knowing. But it is not even the most useful thing I'm going to tell you today. The most useful thing is that melatonin is not a sleeping pill. And once you understand what it actually is, both the dose and the timing start to make sense. So let us do this properly. First, what melatonin actually is. It is a hormone. Your brain makes it in a small structure called the pineal gland, and it makes it in response to darkness. As the light drops in the evening, melatonin rises. As light hits your eyes in the morning, it shuts off. That is the whole job. It is a chemical announcement that the night has started. Notice what is missing from that description. Nowhere in there does melatonin knock you out. It is not a sedative. It does not work the way alcohol or a prescription sleeping tablet works. It does not force your brain into sleep. It tells your body what time it is. Everything that follows comes from that one fact. So, the dose. Walk into any pharmacy and you will see 3 milligrams, 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams. Some gummies go higher. Now compare that to what your own body produces. Across an entire night, your brain makes well under a milligram of melatonin. Not per dose, across the whole night. And the research on effective dosing points, somewhere in that same range. Work coming out of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology found that doses in the region of 1/3 of a milligram were about as effective for sleep as much larger ones. Around 1/2 a milligram is the ballpark that keeps showing up. So when you take 10 milligrams, you are not taking a strong dose of a sleep drug. You are taking something like 20 times a physiological amount of a timing hormone. And here is where the intuition breaks. With most things, if a little helps more. With a signal, that is not how it works. A larger signal is not a clearer signal. Once the message has been received, more of the message does not do anything extra. What it can do is hang around. Melatonin has a half-life measured in tens of minutes to a couple of hours. But a very large dose can leave enough in your system that you are still carrying it in the morning. That is where the groggy, foggy, hungover feeling that some people get comes from. If melatonin makes you feel worse the next day, the answer is almost never a bigger dose. It is usually a smaller one. Now the part that actually matters more than the dose, timing. Because melatonin is a timing signal, when you take it, moves your body clock. Take it in the evening and you nudge your clock earlier, so you get sleepy earlier. Take it in the morning and you would push the clock the other way, which is the opposite of what most people want. Same substance, opposite effect, purely from timing. For ordinary use, that means taking it 1 to 3 hours before you actually want to be asleep, not as you are climbing into bed. If you swallow it at the moment your head hits the pillow, you have given your brain a message about darkness that arrives late, and you have mostly wasted it. This is also why melatonin genuinely shines in a few specific situations. Jet lag, where your internal clock is in one time zone and your body is in another. A body clock that has drifted late, which is extremely common in teenagers and in anyone who has spent months going to bed at 3 in the morning. Some shift work patterns. In all of those cases, the problem is a clock problem, and melatonin is a clock tool. It fits. Now let me be honest about the size of the effect, because this is where a lot of content goes quiet. If you look at the pooled trials, melatonin gets the average person to sleep somewhere in the region of 7 minutes faster. 7. That is not nothing, and it is more reliable than most things sold next to it on the shelf. But it is not a sleeping pill, and I am not going to pretend it is. If you are lying awake for 2 hours with your mind racing, 7 minutes is not your answer. Which brings me to the thing almost nobody selling melatonin will tell you. For long-running insomnia, the treatment with the strongest evidence is not a supplement at all. It is a structured program called cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. It is boring, it takes weeks, it involves changing your schedule and your habits around the bed, and it outperforms sleeping medication over the long term. It is the first-line treatment in the clinical guidelines. It is also the least profitable option in the room, which is roughly why you have heard less about it than about gummies. And if you want the free version of a circadian fix, it is light. Get bright light into your eyes early in the day and reduce it in the evening. Your clock is far more responsive to light than to any pill, because light is the signal the whole system evolved around. Melatonin is a supporting instrument. Light is the conductor. Now the supply side. In the United States, melatonin is sold as a dietary supplement, not as a medicine. That distinction matters more than it sounds. It means the product does not have to prove that what is in the bottle matches what is on the label. And when researchers have actually tested products, the results have not been reassuring. One analysis of melatonin supplements found that the majority deviated meaningfully from their stated dose, with some containing a small fraction of what the label claimed and others containing several times more. A number of them also contained serotonin, which is not something you would expect or want in a sleep supplement you bought off a shelf. Gummies deserve a special mention here, because gummies are what most people actually buy now, and dosing a sticky sweet accurately is harder than dosing a tablet. They also taste like confectionery, which brings me to the part of this that is genuinely a safety issue rather than an optimization issue. Poison control centers in the United States have reported a very large rise in children accidentally swallowing melatonin over the last decade. Not a small increase, a multiple. If there is melatonin in your house and there are children in your house, treat it like medicine and store it like medicine, however much it looks like a sweet. And on children more broadly, melatonin use in children has climbed steeply, often for ordinary bedtime resistance rather than a diagnosed sleep disorder. It is worth knowing that in much of the world, this is not an over-the-counter decision at all. In the United Kingdom and across a lot of Europe, melatonin is prescription only or tightly restricted. The American supermarket shelf is the unusual arrangement, not the global norm. If melatonin is for a child, that is a conversation with a pediatrician, not a purchase decision. So let me put all of that into something you can act on tonight. If you are going to use melatonin, start low. 0.5 milligram to 1 milligram is where the evidence actually lives. If your bottle only sells 5 or 10 milligram tablets, you can often split them or buy a lower dose product. More is not stronger, it is just more. Take it 1 to 3 hours before your target bedtime, not in bed. You are trying to send a signal early enough that your body has time to act on it. Buy from a brand that does third-party testing, because the label alone is not a guarantee in the United States. Use it for the job it is good at. Jet lag, a shifted clock, a schedule you are trying to drag earlier. If you are using it every single night for months as a chemical off switch, it is doing a job it was never good at, and something else is going on that is worth looking at properly. And get morning light. It is free, it is more powerful than the pill, and almost nobody does it. None of this is medical advice, and I am not a doctor. If you are on other medication, if you are pregnant, or if this is for a child, that is a conversation with someone who can see your actual situation. But if you take one thing from this, take this. Melatonin is not a sleeping pill, it is a clock. Set it correctly and it can help. Take 10 times too much of it at the wrong time of night and you are mostly just paying for expensive grogginess. If this was useful, tell me what you want me to check next.